Great, thank you. Good. So yeah, welcome again. Thanks for joining this HCMX Technical User Group Forum. So this is a practitioner forum where we deliver a lot of technical sessions, and more importantly, we do a lot of technical demos, in detail demos. And in the past, you must have seen more towards the day-to-day operations. While, for example, the IT operations team, how they can use the product in a better way and get more benefits. At the same time, how end user or the application team, how they can use and they can actually get more benefits from the product, right? So, of course, on the other side, the back office onboarding and things like that, we actually have delivered as a technical session. Today, it is going to be a bit different, wherein we will be seeing a lot more theory, but definitely it will be of good interest for you because the topic is pretty hot in this market, and we see everywhere people are talking about this who are involved in cloud, especially the multi-cloud. So yeah, great. So again, today I'm not going to share any confidential information. So let me skip that slide. I'm not also going to talk about any of the slides that I already covered in the previous session. For example, the HCMX key value proportion, the core values, and all of that, because that will only take a lot of time. So I'm going to focus mostly on the FinOps, which is going to be the spotlight, and maybe I will touch upon the next user group meeting that we will be covering. So yeah, again, welcome to the new customers. I saw a couple of customers. I usually tell this, but really I see a couple of customers who have joined newly. And like I mentioned, this forum is primarily for the business owners, technical practitioners, and of course our own Micro Focus partners and employees who are mainly the pre-sales team as well as the sales team. And if you would like to share this link to your fellow colleagues, please do share it so that they can get benefit from this. And if you want to get access to the videos that we have already presented, please go to our community forum and you will find all the videos that we have delivered so far in the last 1 or 2 years. Again, so let me skip this. Like I mentioned, I don't want to keep pressing. I'll directly go into the topic. Okay, perfect. So the topic today is, of course, the FinOps. But before I go into the FinOps, I want to know from the audience, how many ops are there currently in the, let's say, market, right? I mean, if you look at least I could list 5 to 8 ops in the market where we call everything as ops. Can someone guess, or if you want to put it on the chat, please do so. At least whatever coming on top of your mind. I can just give you, for example, DevOps, right? So you can possibly think of many other ops, and you can put it on the chat. And let me see if I get any response, by the way. Nope. I can call out a lot. So let me show you. So, well, if you look at, there are different variants of ops. And for example, like I mentioned, DevOps, SecOps, DevSecOps, IT Ops, Data Ops. I mean, I can list, again, 10 more, which are, widely, used terminology and also practiced ops, actually. Well, even if you have to tell there is no ops, you need to include ops in it. So that is the, a fact here. So, well, I mean, I don't think so anyone would agree that, without ops, an enterprise can operate, right? So because ops is the one which is actually a central part of the team who offer the IT infrastructure service and operations management. So if you look at ops is inevitable. Take any example, like I mentioned, if application team wants to go on their own, well, they can do it. They're empowered to do it and they can operate on their own, but there will definitely be some dependency on the operations team in order for to do some monitoring or patching or a compliance scan. So without operations, 80 or 90% of the time, it will be difficult for any enterprise to operate. And that's the factual data here. So today we are going to talk about an interesting fact called FinOps. And even without FinOps, it is going to be difficult for any of these circles, whatever I have listed, right, is difficult to operate. The reason being, it is not just only when I say FinOps because it is related to the financial thing. Of course, it's not like money only that matters, right? Again, I'm not going to the philosophical mode. No, not in today at least. I'm not in the mood. But what I'm trying to say here is the financial aspect of it will have a greater impact on all these variants of ops. So it is about like how best you are using your finance budget, or how best you are able to keep track of your finance budget, right? So that's what it is all about. Well, I'm going to give more definition about FinOps, what is it all about, and what are the benefits of FinOps. Again, it is not like something I created all this one. It is all already available in multiple sites coming from FinOps.org, or even O'Reilly has produced a great amount of wealth of knowledge on the FinOps. So you can go read all the stuff, but I've just given, I'm going to present only the summary of those FinOps concepts. Again, you must be also hearing this from different other channels, and you can also validate whether we are giving you the facts. Again, you can put it in the chat. Okay, I'm not going to jump into the HCMX FinOps immediately. Before that, I want to talk about what is the what are the different set of problems that we are going to talk about today, right? So before that, let me see, everything goes through ops. Great, yes, you're right. Okay, so if you look at cloud, right? Cloud is critical to every business, and if you take even our own install base, most of the customers, they have more than one cloud. They either have AWS or Azure, or even both AWS and Azure, or Azure plus GCP. Mostly that's what you have seen in the international region. And in the Americas, North Americas, we see a lot of AWS and Azure, of course, GCP as well. And in APJ, it's a mix actually, right? So cloud is becoming very critical, and no one denies the fact. And again, it provides a different consumption model compared to your on-premise version, because on-premise is mostly the capex, and cloud is more of the OpEx, but I'll come to this a little later. But the thing here is, any new stuff that you're introducing, and even if it brings some advantage, definitely there will be a new set of problems. I mean, even if you take a medicine, it is good to take a medicine that will heal something in your body, but again, it will also bring its own side effects, some in some shape or form. So that is the universal fact. But here we are talking about three different teams who are being impacted by this adoption of cloud. Again, there is also upside and downside. That is what I'm going to talk about. First is the engineering team. If you look at engineering team, and if we are giving them a chance to take up the whole budget and then play with all the multi-cloud, definitely they will feel empowered. And that will also help them, of course, if they can actually get access to the budget, and then if they can get access to the multi-cloud on their own without having to wait for IT operations to deliver the service. Well, I mean, that's what they are looking for, and they can go deploy the service quickly. And again, it'll help them to roll out the application into the production very quickly. Great, that's an upside. But if you look at the application team, it is not just going to be one application team. In an organization, there can be 50 or 500 or even 5,000 applications team. And if they are having their own budget, and if they're going to consume the cloud services on their own, then each and everyone will become a silo, meaning they will develop their own practice. They will develop, some may develop some best practice, some may not follow the best practice, some may try to reinvent the wheel. So again, the point here is, it will become more of a siloed version. There won't be any central centralized IT or centralized way of managing things. So that is one thing. Of course, there are application team who may be just starting to onboard to the cloud. Well, it will work for them. But for the larger enterprise, we have seen that if you're giving the budget to the application team, they very well use it. At the same time, if there is no control, they probably also will actually exhaust the budget. So coming to the IT operations team, well, for IT operations team, cloud is a miracle, because they don't need to build the service on their own. Typically, if you look at like 10 or 15 years before, they had to build all the services on their own, and they usually create a template, and then they will get the list of templates as part of the library, and they keep updating it. And that usually be the core work for them. Well, now if they just log in, they get bombarded with thousands and thousands of services. So the good news here is they become more agile, and it actually improves their agility. To an extent, it also helps the scalability part, because cloud is elastic and it can scale. Well, it also caters to the application team when the IT operations team is delivering services using the cloud. Great, that's the upside. But what are the downside? If there is no control, and if the IT operations team just create the service account, let's say a cloud account, and then hand over the account to the application team, the application team will enjoy the full service, and many times they will tend to over provision, because there won't be any governance between the request as well as the fulfillment, and that is going to be a bigger problem. So the final one is the finance team. For the finance team, it is a new model because it is a variable cloud spend, and it replaces the fixed one, which is nothing but the capex, and it is getting replaced with the operational expenses. Well, it is a good thing for them, but at the same time, as we know that, right, the cost of a service, it can increase anytime, or some may, in some services from some cloud, they will have a schedule to increase, and some may not have it. So if the users are using those cloud services, and if the service costs are getting changed in a different fashion, then the cloud spend become unpredictable. When it becomes unpredictable, assigning the budget become even more challenging, right? And that's what we are going to talk about in today's session. So let's see some of the personas here. So if you look at the whole of persona, we are talking about the executive CIO and CFO, the business manager, the engineering manager who takes care of the application team, the operations manager who deliver the services, IT services, and the financial advisor who actually bring in the guidelines and help the team use the budget and the cloud in a more efficient way. And the FinOps practitioner can actually be the influence or the catalyst to bring all the best practices. Well, we're not going to talk about all of these personas, but we'll focus on primarily the execs who are the CIO and CFO, and talk about their frustrations. And if you look at the frustrations, literally frustration is what we should call, because of the multi-cloud chaos. Again, we are not against multi-cloud. Multi-cloud is definitely the answer for many problems, but also, like I mentioned, it brings its own challenge. And there are a number of solutions that are available in the market to handle that, right? And that's what we are talking about. So let's talk about the CFO frustrations. So first of all, yes, it is unpredictable and chaotic, because you can actually get exposures at a given point in time 10,000 services. Even in HCMX, if you take in, for example, again, I don't want to bring the product here, but I'm just taking this as an example. If you log into HCMX image aggregation portal, at a given point in time, like I mentioned, you'll be able to see 10,000 services which are aggregated from different marketplace portals. So you will be given a choice, go pick up any kind of services and use it. So the problem here is, like, if there is no cost governance, or there is no FinOps kind of a model, it becomes the cloud becomes unpredictable. And more importantly, the CFOs won't have any understanding on the return of investment. So you get the budget, great, but if you don't know the return of investment, then it will be questioned. Next time, if you go ask for a budget, and if you're not able to justify whatever the budget which was already assigned, then it is going to be a problem. And the fluctuations, the cost fluctuation happens across different cloud. It is usual, and whenever a new data center get introduced by these cloud vendors, again the cost varies, right? And that also brings misalignment in the budget cycles. So these are all some of the challenges that CFO faces, and it creates a lot of frustration. On the other side, the CIO frustrations, the primary thing is no guardrails, which can lead to over provisioning, which we already saw, and crisis mode spend management, which is a crucial piece here. So most of the time, at the nth minute, the application team will come and ask, hey, you know what, I need 20 reserved instances. Well, if it is a reserved instance, it's a good news. But if they ask for an on-demand instance, it is going to be even more killing, because on-demand instance, we first of all don't know how long they are going to use it, and if it is very critical, they cannot even go opt for a spot instance if it is anyway available, right? Because you need to spend some time to find the spot instance. So this is a more of a crisis mode spend management, which will lead to a lot more chaos. And again, if there is no visibility in the cost and the source of overspending, it will also lead to ambiguity, right? I mean, who's spending where, what? If I'm not able to understand, then allocating the budget is also going to be very tedious. And again, if the budgets are not allocated, engineers will obviously will get frustrated because they won't have infrastructure to develop in order to deploy the application, test it, or even the operations team, if they want to deploy something on the production, if there is no enough resource, again, it will have an impact, right? So put together, these are all some of the frustrations shared by CFO and CIO. At the end, it also brings extreme pressure to justify or bring the cloud bill down. That is the most important factor, because every exec is given an objective to reduce the cloud bill or even the overall spend on the cloud. And at the same time, they also need to justify what was already spent. And that's where they need to get access to different tools and stuff like that to get exposure to the cloud spend. Well, again, so how do we solve this problem? So to start with, giving an insight to the cloud usage and cost, it will solve most of the problem, because if you get instant access to the information about the cloud spend and just-in-time reports, like for example, real-time feeds, whatever the spend is happening across different cloud, that will give you enough information about at least who is spending where what. You will also be able to detect some of the anomalies and find out, again, what is going wrong with that particular account, and you will be able to fix it. Secondly, you should also have a way to benchmark some benchmark metrics, and you should also be able to track the performance. And at the same time, with the given data, you should be able to make real-time decisions. So in order to make real-time decision, you need to have data in your hand. Well, I mean, that is what is the question, that is what is a challenge currently. So if you don't have the real-time data, it will always have you'll always have to make some assumptions, and assumptions mean again lead to some failures. So getting the insights to the cloud spend reports and having a budget and ability to track the budget, ability to track the expenses, the crucial piece here in this solution. And finally, like I mentioned, ability to remove the wasteful resources and also get better discounts from these public cloud vendors. And I'll talk about the discounts and other things in the upcoming slide. So put together, these are all some of the points that the CIOs and CFOs can consider in order to, first of all, get visibility and also manage the cloud spend and also save their budget. But this is not enough. And that's what, there are a lot more to come. And that's what I'm going to show you. First of all, let's get into the solution. So put together, if you look at, right, FinOps is the model or a practice that can actually help these personas, especially CIOs and CFOs, to solve many of their challenges that they see on a day-to-day life. But before that, let's go into the definition. What is FinOps? Like I mentioned, cloud is always variable spend model. Give or take, that is how it is actually, and that's the fact, and we need to deal with that. And if you look at the distributed teams, I mean the application teams, every time they have to make a trade-off between the speed, cost, and quality. That's a triangle, right? One is fixed, other two are variable. So for example, if there is a fixed cost, you need to always have a what do you call a debate between the speed and the quality. And again, if the quality is fixed, the metrics are fixed, you need to again have to deal with the speed and the cost, right? So with all this variability, you need to have the practice to bring the financial accountability to enable these application teams to work efficiently. And that's what is FinOps all about. But again, this is just a mere definition, but let's go double click. What is it? Like I mentioned, at its core, FinOps is nothing but a cultural practice. If you take DevOps, it is also one kind of a practice where it will help the developer efficiently deliver this application code to the operations team the same way how it is deployed in the production. And the engagement between the dev and the operational team makes it a success. And it cannot be achieved by a simple tool or something. It is more of an engagement. And that's the same concept here also we apply. FinOps is a cultural practice. It is nothing but an efficient way to manage the cloud cost. And here the thing is, everyone should take the responsibility. It is not like one central team who will take the responsibility. Of course, there is a central team, but that central team responsibility is to bring the best practices. So there is a lot of difference, right, between the IT operations team and the centralized FinOps team. The IT operations team will take care of like all the service delivery, and everyone will point finger. Uh, I'm not blaming them. It's the usual one. But here we are talking about the ownership. The ownership lies across all the team, and there is a centralized team, FinOps team, who will be, supporting them with the required best practices. And again, the best practice will not come day one. You will have to go through multiple phases, and I will talk about it. And if you look at the cross-functional teams should also work together in order to enable the fastest delivery. At the same time, they will get more finance and operations control, because if they get empowered to know the cloud usage, they will make better decisions on both finance wise as well as the operational wise, right? So, and that's what FinOps brings into these teams actually. So what are the benefits? Again, like I mentioned, there won't be one single team who will just simply procure the software or a tool and then give it to them, and then it's not like they have to sign up for the cost. No, that is not no more required when the FinOps model is in place. Instead, the cross-functional team, like I mentioned, they adopt the procurement best practices. So you need to find always find the difference here. The cross-functional team, they adopt the best practices in order to procure the software, and they also sometimes combine the technology with other teams, even the business aspects, and also the finance to optimize the cloud vendor management and through some rates or discounts, because these cloud vendors provide a lot more discounts if you're paying partial upfront or even full up and all upfront, right? These cloud vendors provide a huge discount when you're making an upfront money, because they get a commitment, you get a better discount, right? So, and when you get a better discount, of course, you can start to use that money to avail more services. So, how is it possible? Like I mentioned, each operational team, be it a workload or a service or a product owner, they can access near real-time data, which is the just-in-time data, which can influence their spending. So if I get to know what I'm spending, that will help me to understand whether I should continue to spend on the service or I should go look for a better service, or if there is even anything wrong with that service, I should be able to really understand and adjust it accordingly. And like I mentioned, it will help me to make intelligent decisions, which will result in the efficient cloud usage and the balance. You can also balance between the speed and the performance and the quality and availability of services. So these are all the larger benefits the engineering team, the IT operations team, and the finance team will get together. And like I mentioned, the ownership is within. The ownership is across the team. It is not one centralized team that they can point finger. No, here it is the centralized team who is going to bring only the best practices. And the best practice is something not that centralized team will automatically create. They will learn from other FinOps team, and they will work with other communities. Even from the same company, they will identify if some team is already implementing a process, and if that is yielding a good result, they will take it up and socialize with other set of teams, right? So that's how it works. Okay, let's talk about the core principles of FinOps. So like I mentioned, the team needs to collaborate. I can tell you some examples here. So for example, if I want to, again, when I say collaboration, the collaboration should happen between the IT operations team, the finance team, and the engineering team, so that the engineering team can propose, or they can actually give the requirement, and the IT operations team can actually look for the best way to offer the services. At the same time, the finance team actually can influence them to use the better service from different cloud based on the budget, and also it should be cost effective, right? So that's how. And also based on the history and based on the previous previously ordered services, they will get good amount of information, and that will be present within the FinOps team, who will actually guide them for the future procurement. And the decisions are driven by the business value of the cloud. That is the core item here, because it's not like decisions are taken in silos. It is purely based on the business value of the cloud, and everyone takes the ownership of the cloud usage. It's not like one team who will be taking the ownership. Everyone owns it up because everyone is using it actually. And FinOps report should be accessible and it should be timely. That is the crucial piece in this whole of FinOps concept. And there is a separate phase which will handle this part, and I will come to that. And a centralized team drives FinOps. The centralized team does not deliver anything. The centralized team drives FinOps, and of course, take advantage of the variable cost model of the cloud, because that's what cloud is all about, right? You don't get into the CapEx model. You can always go into the OpEx, and you can actually always take advantage of it. The variable can sometimes increase the cloud cost, or sometimes it can decrease it. So you need to keep a watch on that. Okay, who can start the FinOps model, or when a customer can start a FinOps model? Well, there is no prescribed, prescription available for any customer. Anyone can start it. A successful practice does not require a sizable cloud deployments, meaning even if you're spending, let's say 5K or 10K or a million or 5 million or 10 million, we know customers who are spending 80 million or even above on various public cloud, large enterprises. Okay, so it doesn't matter whether you're spending 50K or 100K. I'm talking about monthly, by the way. So so anyone can start to practice the FinOps model, and earlier the better. It is better, the reason being, FinOps, like I mentioned, it is not a tool. I mean, you cannot just simply give a tool and then bring the cost efficiency. It is a practice. It is a process. And whenever you are introducing a new process, even within your organization, let's say with engineering team or even a IT operations team, I don't want to put any category or tag here. So any process that you're implementing here, obviously there will be some resistance. People will tend to disagree with few things, and some people will accommodate, agree to it. Well, that is the nature. So the earlier the better, and you will also be able to quickly learn from the failures, and you should be able to make success in the future spends. So that is one thing. And again, you'll be able to make more informed decisions for the future spends. And again, it is essential to understand the FinOps concept. We call it as crawl, walk, and run. And these are all different maturity of the customers. So what is it all about? So again, the crawl is just you just started to use the cloud, and you've put your basics in place. And if you look at 43.5% of the market customers who are still in a crawl, who are still in the crawl phase. And if you look at the walk phase, well, you have already started to use the cloud for the last let's say 4 to 5 years, and you have established practice, but you need more maturity in order to get more benefit out of this. And that's where we see that 41.5% fall into this category, and the remaining 15 are in the run phase, and they are matured and evolved. Well, there is always room for improvement and learning, and again, the practice will always get evolved and improved. So the run is not actually that they are able to reap all the benefits. They're able to run, they're able to bring good practices, and they're able to reap the benefits. So 15% is so less. And if you look at, this is where the team, this is where the customers who needs a lot of support from different other FinOps tool. And if you look at the phases, it's not like day one they can actually go start doing the operations. No one can do it. Well, even if you have some automation tool, you cannot immediately do it, because you need to first of all understand, evolve, and then only you can operate. And that's why FinOps brings 3 major phases. One is inform, optimize, and it is operate. That's my mistake. It is FinOps operate. Okay. So these are the 3 phases, and I'll of course go into the details about these different phases. And quick time check. Okay, we are good. I hope so far so good. Please post your questions anytime during the session. If you think any concepts you feel it is like kind of need more details, I'm happy to share. Again, this is more of a conceptual what I call session. And again, I will also go into the product details, not at the early stage, but towards the end. So let's go into the next item, HCMX solution to the FinOps. So with this, let's start with the inform, which is the first phase. So what is inform? Like I mentioned, the decision, if you're able to make a wise decision, you can do based on the data, right? And that's what FinOps delivers. and it should be real-time data, right? It should be just in time. It's not be historic. And if you look at Inform is the first phase in the FinOps journey, and it helps them to give visibility, helps them to allocate the budget, even helps them to benchmark and even forecast. And in terms of the reporting, well, if you look at cloud is elastic, and you can just go to the cloud portal and you can on demand, you can actually create a service. And it also brings customized pricing for different services within the same cloud, because there can be number of vendors who can be creating number of services. Say, for example, Tomcat, let's take an example, right? In a AWS public cloud, you may find 70 different variants of Tomcat. Some may be hardened, or some will have its own compliance, some will be just basic. So it comes with its own what do you call its own advantage, and also the price tag, and it also comes with its own discounts, right? So that's why it is called as public cloud. So you can choose what makes best for you. And the thing is, once you're able to consume the service, the report should give the accurate cost visibility, and then you should be able to make some intelligent decisions. So that's what the report will help you to do that. And the next is accountability. You need to have allocation of cloud spend. Again, the cloud spend can be based on the tags, or even based on the accounts, or maybe together, and maybe even based on the business mappings, right? You can, so that cross charge. I'm sorry. So you can actually cross charge, or you see there is a fine line between the cross charge and the show back, right? So cross charge is something like I as a team, a partner who provide the services, and I pay the cost to the cloud by my own card, but I do a cross charge, charge back to the my customers, or even the other departments. But showback is more of you give the data about what the spend is, and they go and do the respective billing. Or maybe sometimes you may just do the billing, and then you just show back to the respective teams, because there is only one cost center which takes care of doing the billing part within these public cloud vendor. So for these things, you need to have the accountability, and that is very crucial here. And the business stakeholders, which is the core challenge which I talked about, right? You get the budget, and you need to also know the return of investment. And more importantly, you should also stay within the budget, and you should have the data about the forecast, so that you can go ask for more budget. Or maybe if you think that the forecast is giving real good results, and let's say the team the teams are using very good, you probably can request for a lower budget this time, and make the CXOs happy. And at the end, you don't need to get into any surprises, right? So these are the things will help if you have a better accountability. And again, benchmarking is also very important, so that you can keep track of the necessary metrics, especially if you're measuring a high performing team. Always putting a metrics and validating is really a required thing here. So let's see, in HCMX, what are we offering? If you look at a HCMX cost governance and optimization module, we provide the visibility to the execs, as well as the engineering team, or even the operations team. Primarily, it is the cloud admin team, or the FinOps team, who will actually manage the various cloud accounts to check who is spending where and what. So we give them the complete picture of the entire cloud spend based on the product. Everything is categorized as product or a service in the public or a private cloud, and that's what we provide. So it can help them to get the complete visibility. If you just configure an account, it will automatically get the list of products that the teams are using. And of course, you can apply the filters, get based on the account or a subscription ID, and you can share it with the stakeholders. So that is one thing. And if you want to access the spend based on the account ID, yes, there is an option where you can simply go click on the usage account ID report. You will get the complete picture of that account, cloud spend based on the account. You can download and share it. And again, for Azure, it is subscription name equivalent to the usage account ID. But what if you want to get the cloud spend based on the region, or on the Azure side, it is resource location, right? Because the cloud spend will vary based on the region, because the public cloud themselves will have different prices based on the region. Let's say for US West, it will have a different pricing compared to the North. Likewise, for international, Europe will have different price compared to some other country in the international region. Same with for APJ, right? So you need to understand the cloud spend based on the region to ensure whether you can continue to use the services avail from these regions, or probably you can have a better offering when we want to when we see that there is a better coverage at the same time better price which are available on different cloud, right? So this will help you to move to a cheaper regions basically. So coming to the compute, so the compute will give them first all the indirect costs. When you, for example, request for a simple compute service, you don't pay only for the compute, right? Of course, there is a price tag for compute. Again, the compute will come with its own CPU and the memory and the hard disk volume and everything. Well, many cases the instance sizes wall is what will equate to the memory and the CPU, which will be very evident. It will be clearly seen on the screen. Great, but there is also several things that you'll be billed for example, the IP address, the network IO, and a lot more things I can call out actually. And who will be, accounting or how will you get access to this data? And that's what the indirect cost is all about. So it will give the complete picture of all the breakdown of the spend of your Amazon EC2 usage. And then the purchase options. Here again, it's an important piece because you may buy the services all upfront, some services, and some services you may do the purchase for a let's say a partial upfront, and maybe you may not even pay anything upfront and you just go on demand, right? So you need to understand which purchase option makes more sense, and you can actually switch between these any of these purchase options, right? And of course the fact is, like, you pay upfront, again you will get more benefit. That's what the public cloud vendors are claiming. That's also true in terms of the reserved instance or CUDs from the Google Cloud. Again, I don't want to go too much into the detail, right? So spend by instance type, which is very crucial because the price tag for these instance type varies from cloud to cloud, or even within the cloud, you can see 50 plus or even more instance sizes with its own price tag. So what are instance types? It's nothing but, like, let's say for example, the X4 large or T2 small or M2 small, right? So those are all the instance sizes offered by different, offered by AWS, and likewise you will have for Azure, and it comes with its own price tag. So let's assume that any project is consuming the large set of configuration systems, and you need to get the information about the cloud spend on those. So very quickly you can just go into the report and you can get the data, and you can also check who is spending these instance types, and you can also look for some optimization there, because if they are already provisioning through on demand, and if it is continuously running for several weeks, you can look for some option to move it to the reserved instance. Well, there is also a module for that. I'll come to that. So primarily, if you look at the visibility is what matters, and just-in-time report is what it matters, right? So that's what the product offers. Likewise for storage and database, I don't want to go individual reports. So we cover the product, direct and indirect cost, the compute, and the storage and the database. So these are all the various reports which you can get access by simply configuring the cloud billing access keys in terms of the AWS, where you need to just simply configure the S3 bucket and give the data to the configuration provider that will automatically populate this data. And in terms of, with respect to the Azure, you just need to get the enrollment number and the Azure account ID, and that will help you to populate the respective data into these reports. But the accountability part, right? So that's where the finance model comes into the picture. The finance model will help you to configure the cost centers, because you'll be charged based on the cost centers. Engineering teams, or even the IT operations team, that there is a credit and the debit, right? So the debit is usually happens for the engineering team because they consume the service. So the money will be debited from the cost center of these application teams, and it will be debited to the IT operations team, or maybe a MSPs or the service providers, right? So cost center is very, very essential. And how well you can account it for, that's where the budget will come into the picture, which will help you to set the budget and keep track of different individual budget lines which can be associated with this cost center. And at the end, you'll be able to get the comparison between the budget and the expenses, which can tell you whether you have overspent the budget, or you are still within the budget, or where you spent it more, right? So that those kind of information you should be able to get it from this report, which is kind of like an accountability. And moreover, from these reports, from this expense report, you should be able to get some projected cost, kind of a forecast where you can assume uh, for the next 2 weeks or the next 2 months or the next 2 quarters, what will be the spend. I'm not talking in particular about the cloud. Again, there is a separate cloud spend limit which can give you that information, but overall budget, overall spend, it will give you the forecast based on the projected cost, and it will give you some idea about like how much you will have to spend in the next quarter, maybe, right? And like I mentioned, there is a separate module called cloud cost spend limit, which will keep track of the cloud spend that are that you make it directly on the public cloud. For example, here HCMX is a cloud management tool. It can help you to provision the services. Great. You can also deploy any services. It can be a simple compute or a software or a application. But in reality, it's not like always in an enterprise everyone will start use the HCMX service portal, right? Some teams, maybe the greenfield teams, they would want to explore the public cloud, and they would want to use the services directly. But the thing is, you need to still keep track of what they're spending and how much they're spending, and that's what the product will give the visibility. At the same time, you should be able to allocate the cloud spend limit and keep track of it. So if it exceeds, automatically the admin will get the email alert, and then they can act on it. And at the same time, they can also detect any anomalies if there is anything identified. So the reports and accountability are already handled through this reports and the finance module. And these are the two sample reports that I'm putting it over here. Next comes the optimize, which is an interesting piece. Well, optimize doesn't mean that you go and immediately jump into the optimization, and that's the surprise here. So optimize phase is not always about reducing cost. It is about spending efficiently. So that's the crucial thing that everyone should remember. It is not about just you go and reduce the cost by bringing down some crucial servers, right? It is about how you can spend efficiently by getting some discounts, by making some policies which can help you to do some right sizing, by detecting some anomalies so that you can course correct something, right? So that's what it is all about, right? And if you look at these cloud providers offers multiple levers to optimize. Again, we know that on-demand capacity is most expensive. Well, that is on demand because you want to use a service just for next 2 days, right? And that you can just go log into the system and you can request for it in a new case. Then it will become expensive if you continue to use that same service for 2 weeks or maybe 2 months, right? That will be too expensive, and that's where you need to avail the discounts, and the discounts will be based on the reserved instance. So there are different options that these cloud vendor offers in order for you to convert the on-demand instance sizes to the reserved instance. Based on the region, it varies, of course, but the good news is you can avail those services and you can bring down the cost drastically when you're availing. Again, if you're making all upfront, that is going to be a huge win for you. And I don't remember exactly, up to 70% of you can get discount is what I remember as per my certification or exams, where one of the instructor was claiming that maximum they can give up to 70%. Well, I mean, you can check it offline. So coming to the right sizing, well, here you're not going and turning off immediately, but you need to define the policies. So optimize phase, like I mentioned, it is not about you're going and executing automation to right size. It is about identifying the various ways to optimize. One such thing is adding a policy to identify potential candidate for to right size, and and make a process to turn off those resources once you identify as wasteful. And you need to bring the process in place. And when there is a tool, very well it can support you to accelerate that process, right? And that's what the customer would also will enjoy when they start to use FinOps tools. And likewise, as I mentioned, anomalies. Well, anomalies, again, there are two types, right? I mean, if you know that there is going to be an anomaly, there is definitely going to be overspend because of so and so reason. Well, we don't really call it as an anomaly, right? when anything happens unexpected way, that is what it is, anomaly. And anomaly can happen many reasons. So for example, I may go, create a VM on today, maybe let's say at 10 o'clock, let's say I create some 10 SAP instances, or maybe 10 Oracle, or even MS SQL, or even any instances that are kind of like, highly priced on any of the public cloud, right? So that will lead to an anomaly because there is no planned spend that was already informed to the respective team, and until unless you find the reason, it is always an anomaly actually, right? So that could be one potential use case. Second could be you are already running certain set of services, and for instance there is some security vulnerability there, and automatically the auto scaling happens for some reason where you don't really understand why it is happening, because it is a security vulnerability. Until and unless you detect it, you won't be able to figure out, right? So the anomalies can even happen when any non-compliance item happens, or even some security vulnerability happens on any of the services, right? So that can be potential reason anomaly can happen, but the tool should ideally be able to identify those, and you should be able to fix it. And that's where we provide the reports. For example, to start with, saving the making use of the discounts, right? That's the core thing, wherein we provide the complete recommendations by identifying the potential candidates. Let's say, for example, like I mentioned, the on-demand instances across different regions, it can identify, and it can tell you, like, for example, if you're going to continue to use the service for next 1 year with no upfront, you will be charged, let's say 25K. But if you're going to convert these instances into reserved instance, you will instantly save 10K. Again, there's a potential saving is what it is going to tell. And there is a algorithm behind it. There is a ML algorithm behind it, which runs on top of the Vertica. Again, I'm not going to the technical part, but there is a ML algorithm which can take care of this, and it produces this result, which is reliable actually. And again, it's a potential saving. So that is one of it. And like I mentioned, a way to define the policies by detecting the anomaly upfront, and then you should be able to fix it in the later cycle, and that's where the operate will come into the picture. So in the operate stage, what do you do? In the optimize stage, you set the goals, great, but in this stage you will execute them. So so when you say execute, well, you need to first get an alert, right? And moreover, when you get an alert, you need to decide whether you have to take an action or not, because you get an alert stating that, oh, you know what, this system is idle for so and so time. Maybe yeah, it has to be idle for so and so time because it is expecting some response. So it is fine to be idle, and it is completely okay for us to keep running it for so many hours. But there can be a reason wherein there can be a possibility where systems can even be idle for long, or maybe underutilized for a long time. So that's when you need to get an alert. Not just that, when a budget gets exceed, when the threshold of the budget get exceeded, or the cloud spend limit threshold get exceeded, you will get an alert, and you should be able to act on it. And the action can be going and shutting down some VMs, or you may want to trigger some, let's say right-sizing automation. For example, scaling down the instances, right? That also could be a potential way to reduce the cost. Or worst case, you may go extend the budget. If you think that no, I want all the resources for some critical needs, and I got the alert, yes, I know that, let me go and extend the budget. That also could be a potential action. But at the end, you need to have an automation in place to operate on these policies that you've defined in the optimize stage. So don't get confused with the optimize, as the name actually tell you that, oh, you have to do the optimization. No, in the optimize stage, you will have to identify the policies and the actions which can help you to do the better optimization in the operate stage. And that's where the automation tools should come for help, wherein, for example, here in HCMX, when you create a service, it provides the data operations. For example, you can also schedule actions. I heard from one of the customer, even today I was talking to one of the customer. He told us one thing, that they're using the software to bring down the services over the weekend, and it is just simply by scheduling the stop VM. and deallocate, IP address. That will only drastically help them. And they are running 9,000 servers, 9,000 services, which are critical and non-critical also. And over the weekend, out of the 9,000 service, the 4,000 are really not so critical, and they can actually bring it down, or they can even scale it down, right? So that only helped them to save $20,000. That's a huge amount, actually. That you can actually buy a lot more service by simply offering this kind of an automation capabilities, right? So again, this is just a sample set of automations that we are exposing, but the product offers a lot more than what I just talked about. So the customers can actually benefit from it. So in a nutshell, or put together, as I mentioned, 3 phases: inform, optimize, and operate. Inform is about getting visibility by accessing the just-in-time or a real-time report, and optimize is all about how you can actually, again, like I mentioned, inform is not only about gaining visibility and also accountability. You need to be able to set the budget, and you need to be able to set the the cloud spend limit. And in optimize, you will find ways to optimize it. You're not going to act at this stage, but you will find ways to optimize by getting exposed to the discount options, like I mentioned, and identifying some right-sizing ways, and ability to even track the budget and how to bring down the cloud spend. So that's where you will actually be able to define some process and the policies. And in the operate stage, you will act on it. You will be able to go run some automated actions, and you can actually bring down some services, and the tool should ideally be able to help you with that. So overall, I mean, I'm not I don't want to in day one to make you all a FinOps expert. Of course, it's a process. It's again a process. So I'm just giving you some teaser about what the FinOps is all about, and just to make you understand the basic concepts of FinOps, the definition, the benefits, different phases, and the maturity model currently, how the market is evolving, and what even HCMX even offers to the market, right? And of course, we have a very good roadmap, and we plan to introduce a lot more capabilities on this FinOps. Again, disclaimer, like I mentioned, it's actually going to be a roller coaster ride for us, going to be a roller coaster ride for the next 6 months. And you will also see a new thing coming up in the upcoming release. So keep a watch and stay tuned. And for the next user group meeting, you're going to see a new addition to the HCMX. I'm not going to reveal anything, but again, this is a roadmap item. Anything can change. So stay tuned. So let me open up for any questions. I see many have raised your hands. So what I will do is I will let me unmute all of you, and then you can open up for any questions, or even you can actually put it on the chat. And if you want to get access to our FinOps solution, well, I mean, FinOps is a new terminology which we got adopted, right? I mean, it's not like something, it was there like 3 years before, and many vendors called it as cost management solution, or cloud management tool, or cloud spend optimization. Different vendors were calling it differently, and we were also calling it as, even now we are calling it as cloud CGRO, which is cost governance and resource optimization. Okay, there is a question. Where is HCMX is focused in FinOps out of these 3 main pillars? Well, if you're defining HCMX as FinOps, the answer is we will be focusing on all the 3 pillars: inform, optimize, and operate. So that's where we'll be focusing on. We will be enriching the existing capabilities to bring in more functionalities to our customers to solve a lot more challenges on the multi-cloud environment. By the way, it's a good question. Please feel free to post any kind of questions. I'm happy to answer. I think we've got another 3 minutes, I believe.
Hey, Alex, this is Kumar here.
Hey, hi Kumar.
Okay, am I audible? Looks like.
Yes, you're audible. Yeah, of course.
So, another major question I have here is that inform is good, But I think if you look at governance models, forecasting is one of the areas where most of the businesses are looking at, because that's where business wants to see to optimize their spending, right? So
Yes.
what kind of forecasting models are we trying to bring to help the business to say that this is the trend and this is how they have to basically look at optimization models?
Yeah, very good question, Kumar. Thanks for asking. So, well, in the future, again, regular disclaimer applies, but we will, we will give what we plan to do. So, on the optimist side, we want to give forecast on the actual cost. So, currently, that is what we want to improvise on. So, currently, you have a projected cost, which will give whatever you set at the offering layer. That's what you get it as a projected cost. But we want to go beyond that. We want to give forecast of the actual cost that will be able to help you to do more informed decisions in order to procure new services, or in order to even get fresh budget for the next quarter or something. So that is one of the item I can actually call out here, Kumar. But again, there are a lot of things we want to improvise on this phase.
Um, are we basically also collecting the behavioral models of the resources who are using the cloud resources, right? So I mean,
Correct.
developers are right. So are we trying to actually collect the behaviors of the developers who are trying to consume these resources? That will help in basically
Very good question.
yeah, optimizing that's actually nails down saying that no, a particular team will only need, or it will help in benchmarking, saying that a particular team will
Correct.
basically have to only
Exactly.
use, yeah. So it help in
Yes.
basically policy decisions. So is there any
Yeah.
models that are embedded?
Well, we definitely plan to bring such models. Behavioral, I mean, behavioral way of, identifying the usage pattern is definitely, in the plans. That will also not only, help the, a team, but that can also, help us to categorize or even compartmental. I'm sorry, let not get to the word. So it can help us to, categorize or put some segmentation, so that even if you're going to onboard a new team, and if you're, able to match up to the team which we already are delivering the service, they can say, hey, you know what, this could probably be your budget, and you can just go with the ballparks and you can start to use it if they don't have any clue on what should be the budget for that particular quarter or a particular year, right? So yes, definitely we plan to bring in such kind of features, but again, these are all you know some long term functionalities. Basically, we want to first enrich our all these inform, optimize and operate capabilities. And if you look at the cloud cost limit is in one area, and the finance module is in another area. So we want to first of all merge those, and we want to bring in the usage, right? Because if you look at previously, we had tools called cloud optimization, which brought the metrics based on the usage, but again, it gave only the VMware specific or the private cloud specific usage. But here we are going above and beyond just the private cloud, right? We are dealing with public cloud. So we want to bring those metrics back into the product. And the use cases that Cloud Optimizer supports, we want to bring it back into the HCMX. And of course, that will be our immediate focus areas. Again, I can talk about the roadmap in the different session, Kumar, or if you're interested, again, we can have an offline discussion. Yeah. Again, you can shoot any other questions if you have anything uh, on the existing solution, or anyone if you want to ask, please feel free to post your questions.
Thanks, Alex.
Hey, thanks, Kumar. I think we are already run by 2 minutes, but that's okay. Yeah, Ami, yes, this session is recorded. Like I mentioned, I will update it in the site. So this is the site where you will be able to download all the recording. So this recording will also be available here, which you can make use of it. And again, if you want to connect with me offline, feel free to do it. I'm happy to walk you through the current functionalities and even the roadmap and the plans. And if you think any design partners who can be potential candidate for this, please let us know. We'll be happy to onboard them also. So we are, I think, end of the session. Thanks a lot for everyone. I think I kind of kept talking a lot. I hope it was useful for you all. So feel free to share your feedback, and please, join the future sessions. And thanks a lot once again, and have a great rest of the day, and talk to you all and stay safe. Thank you.